Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us today. On the call, we have Justin Anthony with Senator Mike Lee's office, and he's here to help kind of walk us through some of the new legislation that passed recently. Brecken, I think you're also with the Senator's office as well. So I'll turn the time over to the two of you and let you take it from here. And just so everyone knows, we will have some time after their presentation for some question and answers. If you have any, feel free to drop them in the chat, or we'll give everyone some time to jump on and ask their questions as well. So we'll turn the time over to Justin.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. It's great to be with you guys this morning, and thought it'd be best if we, between Brecken and I, started off with introducing what we do for the Senator, and then we'll kind of launch into some of the details behind the legislation that was just recently signed by the President. So as Natalie had said, my name is Justin Anthony. I work for Senator Mike Lee, more specifically serve as his Business Outreach Director, which, if you boil it down, makes me the liaison between the business community and the Senator. So I work closely with Brecken and the legislative team on any issue that affects businesses, and vice versa. When they're working on legislation that affects the business community, work with economic development folks, Chamber of Commerce and businesses to get industry input and provide that back to the Senator and our legislative team. And so super happy to be with you guys today. And again, Natalie, really appreciate you taking the time to put this together. And Brecken, I'll turn the time over to you if you want to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, thanks so much, Justin. Like he said, my name is Brecken Bendler. I'm Senator Lee's legislative correspondent for all things money. So if it has to do with banking or business or a lot that passed in this bill, then I help advise the Senator and get through the information there. I'd also like to add that I love Southern Utah, particularly San Juan County. I've spent almost every summer of my life on Lake Powell. I know Monticello and Blanding well. And so it's God's country there, and we're happy to help and to be chatting. So.
They want to introduce you.
And what Brecken's not saying is that he rarely sleeps, because not only does he work with the Senator on the policy team, he's also his special assistant. So he is going everywhere with the Senator, and so has got to know the Senator on a personal basis, which is quite cool. And you started as an intern in our office, I believe, right, Brecken?
Absolutely.
So intern all the way into the policy team. Look at that. Awesome. Well, hey, so we'll go ahead and just kind of jump into, I'll be the first one to say, this is the summary of the bill. It's 32 pages, I believe. And again, that's the summary, and that's a bullet point. And so to walk through everything that's in the bill would probably take the rest of today and probably into tomorrow. But I've kind of pulled out kind of 12 main points that I thought this group would be interested in hearing, and kind of what that bill is doing. Once I run through those, Brecken, if you have anything to add, please feel free to do so. And then we can jump into questions. So the first thing, just literally, I have it bullet pointed from my end as well. This bill contained additional money to schools from elementary to secondary to higher education, specifically looking at COVID response for these schools. Also extended pandemic and unemployment assistance. So basically extending that unemployment benefit of $300 a week until March 14th of 2021. There was a tax fix for the PPP. This is one we heard quite a bit about, including from individuals down in San Juan County, was that they were concerned that expenses that they were using with PPP funds that would normally be tax deductible weren't being tax deductible. And so that has been fixed. So now if you have expenses that, again, would normally be tax deductible that you have used PPP funds to pay, those would now be tax deductible. There's additional individual checks going to most Americans, $600, and for any individual making under 75K a year. And then there's a sliding scale to, I believe, about 112,000, where you basically start working your way down until you reach zero. Simplified forgiveness for the PPP loans. We had a number of calls with businesses and with associations. The Senator had a number of them as well, where we were talking with the companies about PPP forgiveness. And for those who had started the forgiveness process, they were submitting 25, 26, 27 pages of forgiveness applications. And to us, that was a little ridiculous. We should not be burdening the companies even more, burdening the lenders even more, and in turn, just creating this massive backlog. And so the simplified forgiveness is basically a one-pager. That's a very simplified process. We did not see just forgiving anything under 150,000 as being the way to pursue that, because if there's an audit needed, if there's no paperwork, there's no way to perform that audit. There needs to be a way to see, at least where where those funds are going in some way, even if it's a more simplified process. Good faith protection for lenders. So again, if lenders had acted in good faith, they can't be, gone after for any wrongdoing from the individual who had taken out the loan, as long as, again, the lender had acted in good faith. Probably the biggest one and the most talked about, especially here in the local media, has been allowing individuals to take out a second PPP loan. There are some changes to this. On this one, you need to show a 25% loss. You need to have 300 or less employees. Previously, it was 500. They've dropped it to 300. And you need to, if you have partook in the first round, you need to have used all of those funds before you apply for this second one. We get a lot of questions in terms of what this PPP rollout will look like. From my understanding, the text had said that Treasury and SBA would have to release guidance 10 days from the passage of the bill. President signed the bill, 2 days ago? So I would assume within the next 8 to 9 days, we'll start to see what that will look like. I expect it will be a much smoother process, since the lenders and the SBA and Treasury have their protocols in place from doing this 2 times before. So again, if there's any questions there, I definitely encourage you to reach out to your lenders. We've also received questions on, should you work with the same lender or a different lender? At that point, it's all lender relations. So if you feel like you had a good experience with one, that's great. Continue to work with them. If not, then you can explore another one, but there's no need or legislative demand that you have to work with the same lender. Let's see, another big difference is 501c6s are now eligible for the PPP program. That's most of your associations, your chambers of commerce, through the first passage, and I guess the second passage of PPP, 501c6s were not eligible. They are now eligible, but again, they need to show that 25% loss. Let's see, next point, allocated $15 billion to the SBA to make grants to the live venue industry. So your operators, your producers, your museums, your theaters, your talent reps, same thing. They need to be able to show a 25% loss as well. Additional money to the EIDL advanced program. So if you remember, that was that $10,000 up to $10,000 grant that accompanied the EIDL loan. That is forgivable. And on that note as well, we had a lot of questions when people started going through the PPP forgiveness process on what was happening with that advance, because it was discussed and it was true in that first part of legislation that the advance was being deducted for the PPP forgiveness. So say you got, $80,000 of a PPP, and all $80,000 of that PPP was forgiven, but then all of a sudden you had a $10,000, EIDL advance, then essentially you would be paying $10,000 even though that entire PPP was forgiven, because that was the advance that was being subtracted. That is fixed in this legislation. They are not deducting that from the PPP. Final note I'll mention, and this is a big one for the state, and I know certainly from the counties on the phone as well, is that the CARES Act funds that were dispersed to the states and localities, rather than them having to be spent by tomorrow, it's now December 31st of 2021. I know there were a lot of issues with backlogs in terms of counties trying to purchase PPE or with the specific like glass shields that restaurants were using. There were massive backlogs, and a lot of counties have reached out saying, look, we can't get it and we have to have it in hand by December 30th. What do we do? Now that that date is extended, that should give enough time for localities to make those purchases and have them in shop by December 31st of 2021. So those are kind of the main 12 that I thought would be helpful for this group. Brecken, do you have anything else to add from your end?
No, I think that was a great summary. I think those hit the main economic points of the bill, certainly. Just a couple of clarifying points. Justin was perfectly correct in saying that the extended unemployment goes until March 14th. That is the last day that an individual can apply for new pandemic unemployment benefits. Those benefits will extend to people who have applied before that date until April 5th. Small detail, but something that might be useful to individuals. I'm just with the economic impact payment, so the $600 checks, that's also scaled for people who file jointly. So if you're married and you file jointly, then those numbers are doubled, right? So the phase out starts at around $150,000, and people who make up to $230,000 will still receive some money in form of checks. And apparently it's the hot topic in Washington. They might want to make the checks $2,000. We'll see if the Senate takes that up, and if it does, where that goes. But
yeah, and from there, Natalie, I think that's kind of the summary that we have, and more than happy to open it up to questions from here. And I'll preface this, and I texted Natalie this last night because I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, we might not know every answer because we'll be the first one to say the text is long. As the senator says, it's not like reading a nice, you know, novel that you just want to sit by the fire and have hot chocolate with. It's heavy, dense reading, and we've done our best to get through it, but we still have some questions on it, and if we can't answer your question, we'll definitely go ahead and reach out to John on our policy team, as well as the Congressional Research Service, to try to get those answered for you as quickly as possible, in addition to doing our research on our own. So yeah, more than happy to open it to questions. Oh, it looks like there's one in the chat here. Just open that. See, okay, from Stephen, if we have initiated the loan forgiveness process and are under 150,000 but over 50,000, should we simply withdraw the application? Stephen, if you're able to talk, quick follow-up question on that. With your lender, was it a simplified process, or did they have quite a bit of paperwork going through it? I know that individuals, and Brecken, correct me if I'm wrong, they still have to have their forgiveness application done end of the year, right?
Yeah, that's under the original CARES Act tags. It will be very interesting to see how SBA, the Small Business Administration, reconciles kind of the CARES Act with this omnibus package with the simplified forgiveness. SBA was supposed to have the forgiveness process up and running months ago. It was supposed to be simple and quick, and that has been an absolute disaster that has had congressional staffers like me pulling our hair out for months, literally. And so in the next 10 days, we'll get a much better idea of kind of how those would interact. I would talk to your lender, see what your lender recommends. The Small Business Administration, especially with the PPP, when push comes to shove, they talk to lenders well before they talk to us, because we're the ones checking their homework, and the lenders are on their same team. and so the lenders will likely know better how to handle that. The simplified application for forgiveness is supposed to be short and simple, and so that's a huge advantage. The other big question is, if you received an EIDL advance, the new bill says that you get to keep that doesn't need to come out of your forgiveness. The current SBA forgiveness application asks that question and then removes that amount from your forgiven amount. And so your bank will have kind of a good idea of how to handle that. I think the SBA in the next couple of days will probably just extend the deadline. Now that's no guarantee. That's kind of a shot in the dark. But that's probably the most likely scenario. I would just be in very close communication with your bank as we get towards the end of the year.
And so Justin, this is Steve. To answer your question, we filed the complicated loan forgiveness application. We held off for quite some time thinking that there might be legislations similar to what we got. But then we kind of gave up and sent it in. So now I'm sort of betwixt and between, and I'm wondering whether I should, and I will simply call my lender and see what they suggest. But it seems that, well, anyway, I'll call my lender and see what they suggest. It
Yeah,
may be best just to withdraw the application and submit the simplified form.
I think talking with your lender is probably the best bet on that. They'll have a better understanding of what that looks like. And I know I was on a call with Howard Headley of the Bankers Association and Scott Simpson of the credit unions here. I guess it was right before Christmas, and they were waiting on guidance from the SBA on what that process will look like as well. And so I know the lenders are actively involved in that that conversation in terms of how they'll handle that. And so yeah, I think engaging with them is a good idea. But I mean, also getting your application in is probably a good idea in case that they didn't extend that deadline. So I definitely think you did the right thing. And to Megan's point in the chat about the SBDC, it's absolutely correct. SBDC will have all that information as well. I know I talked with the SBA yesterday. They are actually coming back early from kind of those holiday timeframe, and we'll be back in the office New Year's Eve. Training, if you guys remember the rapid response team that was here at the state, that was basically helping the SBA field all the questions because they were getting so many questions about PPP and EIDL and Advance and all these programs, that they essentially worked with World Trade Center Utah and with SBDC network and the SBA, and kind of this conglomerate came together and formed this rapid response team to help individuals get their questions answered quickly. I believe within 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And they processed thousands of questions. It was quite a cool effort that I don't think was replicated nationwide, but hats off to them. And I know they'll be training their volunteers here within the next 2 days, so that as soon as we hit the new year, everybody's up and running and ready to go. See, it looks like there's a CARES Act question. So the CARES Act paid 6 months of SBA 7A loans for businesses. Will this relief package do the same? Brecken, do you have any information on that one?
So the short answer is not to my knowledge. So in the 6,000 pages from what I've read, that's not in there. I haven't seen any news reports about that. So I'm waiting to say no. That being said, there are SBA 7A provisions in the bill. It allows businesses who received PPP loans to go back and receive 7A loans. And that was something that the CARES Act explicitly prohibited. So if you are already a small business administration business that you receive 7A loans, you can go back, reapply, get new loans, and open up that line of credit. And so, yeah, I think that's the simplest answer.
What other questions can we answer for everyone?
Maybe while we're waiting on some questions as people are thinking about them, I just wanted to take a minute to introduce Meghan McFall that's on the call. I know, Justin, you acknowledged her, but we do have on her staff, Talia Hansen, who specifically was hired to support businesses in San Juan County in the area with COVID relief. So I just wanted to give Meghan some time to introduce Talia.
Funny part is we're actually been together planning some workshops and things like that when this was scheduled, so that worked out perfectly. So I'm really excited to be able to have a COVID relief expert for our county. I know that when the initial round came out, we didn't have the SBDC in the area, and now we do. And then this round, we actually have a COVID expert. Talia Hansen has been working in the financial area for a couple of years. She's got a great background. And knows the COVID relief packages that have already come through. We're excited to get the information on this current stimulus package so that we are able to help the county out. If you have any questions or would like to meet with myself or with Talia, if you send me an email and I'll put that information. I'm actually obviously not in San Juan County right now. I have an auto reply. There's a link on that to my calendar, and you can actually set up a meeting with either one of us. I have both my calendar and Talia's calendar on there, and then we can help you get through that process. And as soon as we get that information on either the SBA, from the SBA that comes directly to the SBDCs, or as the stimulus package information comes out, we will get that out to you as well, and we can set up meetings and help you through that process. So perfect. Anything you want to say?
No, I'm excited to be able to help, and that sounds like a really, really long thing to read. So That's going to be fun.
So thank you for the opportunity to introduce Talia, and we look forward to helping everybody through this process.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan and Talia. Appreciate that. Any other questions? You might be on mute too, so if you are speaking. Okay, well, Justin, I think, has been gracious to always offer his email out to the group. And so we'll be sure to, if there's any follow-up questions that you might have, we'll also share Justin's email with the group and with the call. And then also Megan and Talia and Brecken just dropped in his email in the chat as well. So thank you. So if there aren't any last minute questions, I think that's everything that we have for you now. And we'll just follow up as things progress, and then we'll go from there. So thanks for everyone for joining, and appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you guys
Thank you.
making time to jump on, especially in between holidays. But if anybody has any questions, my email, Brecken's email is there, and feel free to email us or call us too. Natalie, please feel free to share my cell phone too. Feel free to call us as well. We're more than happy to answer any questions, or like I said, get you the answers to the questions we may not know the answers to.
Perfect. And then we did record this, so we'll just be posting it on our YouTube channel and then share it with all the platforms. So there's quite a few people that I think are wanting to watch this after the fact. So they'll probably be following up with some questions.
Well, Happy New Year.
Okay. Happy New Year to everyone.
Hopefully we get to see you guys shortly after the new year.
Exactly. Looking forward to it. Thank you very, very much. And thank you, Natalie, for inviting me to attend. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, we'll talk to everyone later.
Thank you.